Hello! Today's stories come from r/entitled people. Today we have a treat. It's one story with over 10 updates of petty workplace warfare, where OP eventually disappeared 3 years ago, leaving everyone with a very soft conclusion, until she showed up in the comments of this repost. The Breakfast Nag Saga concluded. I've been working at this location for almost 2 years now. In all that time, I haven't really had any issues. Have kept my head down and done my job. Last July, I had to have surgery on my back that left me using a cane and unable to lift anything heavier than a gallon of milk. I need a second surgery, but for now, I'm super restricted in what I can and can't do. I have been having a little mini war against one of the breakfast attendants at my property because she wants me to set out the coffee creamer super early, and I refuse to unless guests are actually coming downstairs. As guests getting curdled cream in their coffee is something that happens frequently because they sit it out so long it spoils. This same breakfast attendant also wants me to set up the cereal, set out these super heavy wooden containers, these whole glass containers with our sugar, jelly, oatmeal toppings, etc., and set out everything except for the hot food that is supposed to be done at 6 or 7, in addition to the coffee. Essentially, she wants me to do about 90% of her job. For a while after my surgery, I pushed myself to make sure that everything was done as she had asked because I didn't want to rock the boat, even though I was directly going against my surgeon's directions. So I had a talk with my manager and all of the breakfast attendants and explained that I couldn't do everything I had been doing as it was directly contributing to my back issues. And the longer I did those things, the worse it got. Everyone else was all right with this and completely understood. Not this nag. Every morning that she works, she scolds me like an errant child about not setting everything out for her. Every morning, I remind her that I am literally under medical restrictions and cannot do those things. Today, she was working and again pulled her BS, but took it a step further by complaining to my direct manager. I spoke to the GM about my restrictions. At the time, I didn't have a direct supervisor. I got a message earlier from my direct manager saying she wants to speak to me tonight when I come in, but didn't say what about. Not even a minute later, the girl covering the desk right now messaged me to let me know that Breakfast Nag was talking all kinds of crap to the manager right before I got the message about her needing to talk to me. I'm so dang sick of this. It's literally her job as breakfast attendant to do this stuff. Unless this nag is going to contribute to my medical bills that are going to continue to grow the more I push myself to do things like this, she can shut the frack up. Any ideas on what I should do to help in this situation that I'm maybe not seeing? I've talked to her several times and I'm just not getting through to her. Update. I arrived on my shift to an email from my direct manager. I will put it below. Please tell me if this is okay. Do I need to add more to get my point across? Note from direct manager. Geronimo, if you will please set dry breakfast items out and unlock the milk in the morning for company and coffee. My reply. Hey, direct manager, I have only not set out coffee once since I have been back. I have talked to breakfast attendant about this issue several times. The only thing not done to her standard was the coffee creamer, which I don't set out until guests start to come down. I will continue to do it this way as guests don't like warm or curdled cream in their coffee. I didn't realize company was in house last night and did not set out the cereal. I will make sure this is done each morning I am here. However, I am unable to carry the heavy wooden blocks with the dry goods as per my surgeon's requests. I will do all that I am able to do as best I can, as I usually do, but I cannot, in good conscience, put my back at risk for further injury by carrying things too heavy for me. Please let me know if this will be an issue. Thanks in advance. Post 2. Arrived to my shift tonight to this email waiting from my direct manager. Thank you for helping out. Please continue doing what you and breakfast attendant have agreed to. And if you even think you may have problems with carrying something, don't do it. We will manage and figure something else out. I have printed off the emails and will continue to build up my evidence that they are violating ADA rules. Until then, this is pretty anticlimactic, but I'm about to throw some mad r/petty revenge at this breakfast nag. Post 3. In the first update, I thought the situation was done for now as my direct manager told me to do what I can and they, the breakfast attendant and management, will figure out the rest. I wasn't super happy with it, but figured whatever, this should be the end of this. But I also decided that I was also done doing extras for this breakfast nag. See, she loves to complain, but conveniently forgets that I have been going above and beyond for her and keeping my mouth shut to management about sketchy stuff she does. She has a bad habit of bringing one of her grandkids to the hotel and having me give her a key to an empty room for the kid to sleep in. Without management approval, of course, because apparently that works beneath her. She will also call around the time she is supposed to be here and tell me to clock her in. In the past, I just did it. I have since learned that stuff is hella illegal. So even if we weren't in this situation, I would have stopped, but the timing is just convenient. One of her biggest things is she wants me to open both of the kitchen doors as soon as I get here, so that by the time she gets here, it will be a normal temperature. With two refrigerators and two freezers, it's hot as heck in there. So yesterday, I made sure that it stayed shut. So Breakfast Nag rolls up around 5:30 and immediately starts yelling across the lobby about how I need to make sure those doors are open, or she will be too hot. Boo, fracking, who, Nag? I just looked at her. I didn't say anything, just stared at her like she was suddenly speaking Hebrew. And me, without my pocket translator, dang. Tonight, I arrived to an email from the GM telling me to make sure to open those doors, because otherwise the freezers will overheat and the food won't be as cold. Now, if this had ever been mentioned before, I wouldn't be upset. But this is obviously her way of trying to keep the peace between me and Breakfast Nag. But as they have recently talked to me about taking a management track position, I think it may be a test. So I just sent a reply back to the email telling her I would make sure everything was done, and am now trying to plot my petty revenge. I will be opening the doors to the kitchen today, but not until 4:50, so it will still be hot in there. I am also eagerly waiting for Breakfast Nag to either call to try to get me to clock her in, or to bring her grandkid up here so I can tell her no. But heck no. Edit. I have decided not to be petty about this. If I want to be management someday, I can't pull stuff like that and think that I am good management material. However, I do believe that the best revenge will be to live well and show her that no matter what she throws at me, I will not allow myself to get sucked into her games and jeopardize my future for someone that in 10 years isn't going to matter to me. When I do make manager, though, I will make sure to write her up for any and all sketchy things I catch her doing. In the meantime, any advice on how to be the most professional I can be about this situation? Post 4. Oh boy, has this stuff gone on way longer than necessary. Last week, things kind of hit the fan right before I left my shift, so I waited until I was back on this week to update, so I would know the repercussions of what happened. So, when we had left off, I had decided to take the moral high road and comply with as much of the BS that lazy breakfast nag threw at me. I had been told I was on track for management training and down the road, a promotion. And no way in heck was I going to let this witch ruin that chance for me. Was it frustrating that she was making such a big deal over things I am having a hard time doing? Yes. But at the end of the day, I was just going to deal with it until I got promoted and then write her up for all her BS. Not stuff from the past. She just does as she pleases and gets no repercussions. So I know I would have plenty to write up on in the future. This lasted until around the time Breakfast Nag strolls in the door. See, that night I had done everything I could do, but I did forget to open the kitchen door so the kitchen would be cooler when she came in. She walks in the door and I am talking to one of our long-term stay guests. Seriously, dude has a reservation for 300 nights with us this time round. He is really chill and likes to come down and talk with me in the mornings. He goes to talk to her by the kitchen door and she starts her BS of, wish she would have opened this door in the snarkiest tone imaginable. Now, while I don't like her talking trash to begin with, I thought it was super unprofessional that she pulled this to one of our best customers. I'm kind of pissed, but whatever. I'm just trying to make it to the end of my shift so I can rant at my poor husband, who is super done with hearing about this nag. I let it roll off and don't say anything. She goes in the kitchen and is slamming cookware and silverware all over the place, coming out into the breakfast area and throwing things on the counter. We had guests sitting right next to where she was doing this. It got so bad that one of our other long term stay guests asked if she was all right. She told them she was fine and seemed to calm down, but strike two, nag. Things were quiet for about 20 minutes, and then I can hear her talking on her phone, talking about me. This nag waited until breakfast started and called someone to complain about how little I do, and how we wouldn't have any problems if I would just do my job. I'm fine with letting people rant, but if I could hear her from the front desk, then the lobby full of people down for breakfast sure as heck heard her. So now I'm so far beyond pissed. It's one thing to talk trash. It's another to be so unprofessional and try to call me out in front of multiple guests. As luck would have it, my direct supervisor was working the next shift. So when she got to work, I immediately pulled her in her office for a little talk. laid it all on the table. I told her that I had been doing my best with the breakfast setup, but that I could no longer continue to put my health at risk by going directly against the wishes of my surgeon. I told her about Breakfast Nag's actions of that morning and how upset I was that not only was Breakfast complaining about me to coworkers, but now to guests as well. I finished it up by saying that this was the last straw, that I was tired of begging management to do something, and that the next time something happened, I would be going above our GM's head and taking this up with corporate HR. It's amazing how quickly management's tone changed. They know they are already on some thin ice with me about some sketchy stuff they pulled after my surgery, and that I'm down to throw them under the bus for their actions in a heartbeat. I was told that I no longer had to help with breakfast setup if I didn't feel up to it, and that if Breakfast Nag says anything else, that they will take care of it. Breakfast Nag came in just now and is avoiding looking at me directly, and hasn't said anything to me, which frankly is how I prefer it. She is throwing stuff around, but whatever. I fully plan on going to corporate if she does one more thing. Management has already proven to me that I can't trust them to have my back on this issue. Post 5, current BS. So, when I last wrote, management had changed their tune and told Breakfast Nag to cut the crap with me. For the most part, she has, but it's been about a week and she is already ramping back up to her BS. Last week, the day after management told her to chill out, Breakfast Nag comes to me with a receipt for our local mega chain superstore and tells me I need to fill out an expense report for her as she is super busy. I've been here 2 years and have never had to do this before, but assumed that since she used the corporate card to pick up some fruit for breakfast, that this was just standard procedure. Nope. Literally, all you have to do is write down what you bought with the card, the total cost with tax, and sign the dang thing. Yesterday, she does the same thing. I look at her like she is darn stupid, write oranges and bananas on the paper, and slide that thing right back to her to sign. I know she is just pulling some kind of power tripping BS, and I'm not going to blow up on her, no matter how much I want to. Yesterday morning, she calls me around 5 saying she's going to be late, that she needs me to start the hot food for her. No big deal, it's legit just microwaving. I end up having all the hot food done and set out. She ends up being only 5 minutes late. I had assumed she would be at least 30 minutes late because otherwise, why would she need breakfast started? Today, she did the same thing. Called around 5 saying she needs breakfast started because she overslept, and can I put the hot food out again for her? I don't do anything. I plan on starting the hot food 5 minutes past when she is supposed to get to work. She arrives only 3 minutes late. She doesn't actually need the help. She is just trying to get me to do more of her work now that management told me I would no longer be doing all the extra I had been doing before she decided to start being a demanding butthole. She came over to me just now telling me how she is so sorry that I don't like her and how she will never ask me to help her with anything again. Yeah, right, Nag. But she needs me to make sure the coffee creamer is out. This creamer is what started this whole thing, and I refuse to put it out before people come down in the mornings. She may not realize that I am not, in fact, stupid, but if she wants to play nag games with me, I will personally deliver those nag prizes. She can postulate and power trip all she wants. I'm not falling for it, and I sure as heck am not giving in. Stay tuned for more BS. Post 6. Oh my glob, guys. Last we left off, Breakfast Nag has been postulating and power tripping her way through the mornings, trying to sneakily get me to do more of her work, hoping that maybe if she does it slowly enough, I may not notice. I may have the tiny arms of a T Rex, but I assure you my mind is just fine. So this whole week, she has come in late. The first day, it was just a few minutes, and then more and more, etc. Today, my Friday, she is a whole 45 minutes late. Now I know that she is only this late as she wants me to have to set out breakfast, or at least most of it, before she gets here in the mornings. The last few days have kind of blown up in her face because I did nothing and made her crypt keeping butt have to hustle to make it on time. Oh, but she got me good today. She was so late that unless I started, breakfast would have been late for the guests. Of course, today was one of those mornings that people started queuing up about 15 minutes before breakfast is supposed to start. So I'm hobbling my decrepit butt as fast as I can, trying to get at least some food set out for guests that are obviously in a hurry to get going because, you know, breakfast was now supposed to have been started around 15 minutes ago. I finally managed to get everything out, and in strolls Breakfast Nag. I seriously think this nag got here and sat in her car, watching me set everything out, which you can clearly see from the parking lot. And right as I bring out the last thing, she walks in the door. If I hadn't seen headlights pull in 10 minutes before and hadn't known that no one had come into the hotel, I may have just believed this was a coincidence. This lets me know two things. Breakfast Nag knows that I am not going to let the guests suffer for our petty BS and that I will do breakfast when I absolutely have to, even though it physically hurts me like a son of a gun. And that she knows I can't complain about this because she is phrasing this as she overslept. Normally, this would kind of piss me off. Well, let's be honest, guys. I would be seething, throwing tables kind of mad, but today I am not. I'm not mad because I know something Breakfast Nag doesn't know. My promotion paperwork has been started. I started training for my management position yesterday and have been given more administrative roles working with the current management team and the front office staff. Breakfast Nag can preen and postulate and pull all the BS she wants for now. I am giving her the rope that she is going to hang herself with, and I will be sitting front row with popcorn and a giant margarita. For now, I am going to go home and enjoy a long and well deserved bout of day drinking. Post 7. Last we left off, Breakfast Nag was postulating and power tripping all over the place and came in something like 45 minutes late, making me do her job completely. I was unable to prove that she sat in her car and watched me set everything out, but I know that she did it. Today, my GM came in at 5 a.m. and had a meeting with myself and Breakfast Nag to try to put an end to the animosity. Wouldn't you know that as soon as she was confronted with the situation, Breakfast Nag backpedaled like a son of a gun. It was all, "Oh, I don't have any issues with Geronimo. She has an issue with me." Or, "I didn't know we were supposed to do things this way. Geronimo has just always done it that way, and I don't understand why she would stop doing these things for me." Breakfast even tried to say that I was making it all up. She told the GM that she, Breakfast Nag, had never talked about me to or in front of a guest. Then, in the next sentence, said that long term guests just happened to be next to her when she said something about me. Man, whatever, Nag. I am going to play nice for now, but am honestly considering just looking for a new job. This is not the first issue they haven't had my back on, and management continues to disregard my health and surgeon's requests. Haven't decided just yet, but may apply for other jobs just to see what's out there. Post 8. Hola, peeps! Coming in to update on the conclusion of this whole BS saga with Breakfast Nag. I waited a while to post as I wanted to see how things were going to go after the meeting with Breakfast Nag and the GM. If this is your first time joining, I highly suggest checking out the links above to get the backstory. So, last we left off, Breakfast Nag was denying up and down and all around that she had done anything wrong, and she was just a poor, confused old lady who didn't understand why Geronimo stopped doing her job helping her. At the end of the meeting, I was pretty steamed because it seemed like nothing was being resolved and I was just going to have to put up with the BS or find another job. Well, the next morning, GM pulls me into the office alone and tells me that she has thought about it and decided to change the standards of what our front desk does to help with breakfast, just so there is no more confusion. When this started, I was making one container of coffee, one decaf, and one with hot water in addition to setting out everything but the hot food. Now, the official rule is that I just make one pot of coffee and cream only goes out if there are people in the lobby. I no longer set anything out for breakfast. I don't even turn on the juice machine. But not only that, now no one is allowed to set up breakfast for the breakfast staff, meaning that unless you are a breakfast attendant, you have no business setting up the breakfast area. If the attendant is going to be late, then so is breakfast. I have won not only the battle, but the whole Hooten War. The saga is over and Breakfast Nag has been defeated. You all have been amazing with the support and the interest. It warms my cold, dead heart. Post 9. 'Tis I, the Frenchiest fry here, to update all you lovely peeps on the aftermath of the Breakfast Nag Saga. In my last post, I had lots of comments kind of taking bets on how Breakfast Nag would handle the transition from having everything done for her to no longer having any help from any of the front desk staff. So I thought I would wait a bit and give you all the official answer. Actually, it has been really great this last month. After management changed the standards of what help was expected from the front desk staff, Breakfast Nag no longer had a leg to stand on and had to deal with the fact that all I was going to do for her was set out one pot of coffee in the mornings. She did try to start up all this BS again by being super late twice. Once a few days after the verdict had been handed down, and once last week. The first time she called and said she was running late and heavily implied, while also not actually asking me to do anything, that I should get breakfast started for her. Imagine her surprise when all I had done was set out a single pot of coffee and inform the guests that breakfast would be late today. Oh boy, was she upset. She slammed things around and muttered under her breath, but I had my phone out and ready to start recording her the second she got further out of line, so she didn't do more than that. The second time she didn't call, she was just late, hoping that if she was late enough, I would just get started on my own. Instead of doing her work for her, I called my GM and told her that Breakfast Nag was super late and hadn't called, so we needed to call someone else in to cover her shift. Since it was such short notice, GM was the one who had to cover breakfast that morning. The look on Breakfast Nag's face when she sauntered in an hour late to find a very upset GM running around setting up breakfast was honestly to date one of the best things I've ever seen in person. I will go to my grave with that image as a cherished memory. That was also the day that Breakfast Nag was pulled into the office and, after much yelling, was told that if she is having trouble showing up on time to do her job, she won't have one anymore. Whispers went wild for a few days before I got confirmation that Breakfast Nag has had her final warning. She will be given no more chances, and if she steps out of line again, she will be fired and will lose out on the retirement benefits she has been building up with our company. Now, normally I wouldn't have put any stock to my GM saying this because she does have a tendency to bury her head in the sand and not actually handle problems with staff. But this last month, she has really stepped up her game and has fired several people that honestly should have been let go a long time ago. So, this is it for now. Breakfast Nag has had the fear of God put into her and has stopped her BS for now. But I expect that sometime in the not so distant future, I will be back with the joyous news that Breakfast Nag has been fired. Post 10. I am not going to link the whole saga here. It's just gotten too long, guys. But if you are lost, feel free to check my username for old posts about Breakfast Nag. The gist of the situation is that the breakfast attendant on my property wants me to do as much of her job as possible, and the situation didn't de escalate until management finally stepped in and told her to do her own heckin' job. When we left off in my last post, our GM had to come in at the butt crack of dawn to cover for Breakfast Nag because she thought she would be cute and come in an hour late. Make me set up breakfast for her. Instead of that, I set out one pot of coffee and called GM to let her know someone needed to cover for Breakfast Nag because she wasn't in yet and wasn't answering her phone. GM covered and told Breakfast Nag that if she can't get her act together and do her job, then she wouldn't have a job anymore. It's been a month since, and things have actually been good. No more being late, no more last minute callouts, and she has been doing all of her own work without complaint. Until today. So, Breakfast Nag was supposed to get here at 5 a.m., but she usually doesn't roll in till 5:15 to 5:30. So I didn't even think about the fact that she was late until 5:45 hit because breakfast is at 6 and still no one is here to do breakfast. I call Breakfast Nag cell, no answers. I call back again, and this time the call goes straight to voicemail. Knowing that this is her usual tactic of getting others, read me, to do her work for her, I call her manager. I tell manager that Breakfast Nag isn't answering her phone and that breakfast is now late. I also ask if she would like me to get breakfast started until we can get someone in, and she tells me no, that she would call in the backup and that I should stay at the desk. At 6:20, Breakfast Nag finally calls back and says that she overslept and that her phone was dead. I want to put in a note that I know these things happen and I know I've done these things before. I just don't believe her in this instance. So she wanted me to get everything started and she would be right in. I got to gleefully, if I'm being honest, tell her that there was no need to come in. We already called an awesome breakfast lady, so she could just stay at home today. She got kind of huffy with me and asked if I had even called our manager before calling in awesome breakfast lady, or if I just did it myself because I didn't want to have to do any read her work. I told her that I called her 4 times before calling to ask the manager what she wanted me to do, and guess what? She wanted me to stay at the desk doing my job and call an awesome breakfast lady to come cook breakfast because that is her job. I could hear the can't be bothered tone over the phone, but she couldn't say anything because I did everything exactly as I was supposed to. Wow, what a story. I'm not sure I'd have been that patient if I were in OP's shoes. The pending promotion must have really helped her keep focused. I wonder what the hotel chain is. They clearly don't care about employees and have subpar occupational health and safety programs. It really bothers me when employers let people like Breakfast Nag run amok until things get out of hand. GM should have stepped in way sooner. Seems I'm not the only person that thinks so. On to the comments. We'll start with an update from the original OP, which was posted just a few months ago. Hey guys, after being reached out to by several people, I've decided I should probably share what eventually happened to Breakfast Nag in the end. It isn't much of a story, though. A few months after my last post about the whole situation, Breakfast Nag had her arm broken in 2 places by her daughter's abusive husband when trying to help her escape a domestic violence situation. As such, she had to wear a cast from her shoulder to her hand, and the cast was kind of propped on her torso. I'm not sure the actual name of this type of casting or whatever. Anyhow, now that Breakfast Nag only had one arm to work with, the GM slowly started phasing her out of a job until Breakfast Nag decided she should retire. So, last I heard of the whole situation, Breakfast Nag quit of her own volition and has not been back since. Thank you so much to everyone who reached out and enjoyed my tale. It's so surreal to see people reacting to this so long after it all went down. Too Many Geese said, "Wow, GM and management are absolutely useless piles of crap." I like how the GM only started caring about Breakfast Nag's antics after she had to personally cover her shift. Classic case of not my problem until it starts affecting me personally. Arf. He said, "Weirdly captivating read." OP replied, "Agreed, like one of those disasters that you just can't look away from." Father Son Holy Toast gets the final word. "It really is. It's so small scale and low stakes, but I was riveted." If you've enjoyed the story and would like to hear more, consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment. Thanks, and bye for now.